this?
Huh?
I have to read this?
No,
No, I have one.
you have it,
Do you have this?
just so you have it for background.
Yeah, I have one. I gave him one. Yeah, we have that. Let me do this, like,
I'm just gonna go off that computer, all right? I'm not gonna use this.
yeah, I remember, we updated it. Is it something to do with that?
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. I'd like everyone to stand for a pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, did we?
For the record, after consultation with the interim county superintendent and Superintendent John Neese, according to NJSA 10.4-9, meeting of a public body. Announcement by the board secretary. For the record, this is an emergency public meeting of the Bayonne Board of Education. It is 9:18 a.m., the second day of June. We're in Anna J. Herbert meeting room. The presiding officer is Maria Villado, president of the Bayonne Board of Education. Those in attendance include Mr. John J. Neese, superintendent of schools, Mr. Kenneth Kopaz, assistant superintendent for personnel, Dr. Gary Maida, board secretary, Mr. Daniel Castle, school business administrator, Mr. Thomas Fagu Jr., assistant school business administrator, Dr. Dennis Degnan, assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and Mr. Philip Lamparello, board counsel. The meeting's open to the public. I will take a roll call. Trustee Alonso is absent. Trustee Broderick.
Present.
Trustee Burke.
Present.
Trustee Cassius.
Here.
Trustee Egan.
Present.
Trustee Finnerty is absent. Trustee Wilbeck.
Here.
Vice President Munoz.
Here.
President Villado.
Just drop this. For the record, adequate written advance notice giving the time, date, and location of the meeting was provided as follows. Notice was promptly posted in City Hall at 630 Avenue C on the bulletin board reserved for such announcements of the Board of Education. The board secretary sent such notice to the Jersey Journal and Bayonne Community News. Notice was filed with the municipal clerk of the City of Bayonne, Ms. Madeline Medina, and posted to Bayonne Board of Education website.
Mr. President, there's a question by Trustee Broderick.
Well,
Like to be
not-
recognized?
Yes.
Not so much a question, but considering we're here because of, basically, I think, going back to the George Floyd situation, and I would think for some clarity and help that maybe we could start this meeting with a prayer.
Yes.
I happen to see Reverend Patterson in the audience. Maybe she could lead us in something before we start.
Yes, I agree.
truly
Reverend
appreciate
Patterson,
that.
would you be able to lead us in a prayer before we start?
O wise and everlasting God, we come to this particular place. We implore, Lord God, your presence in this place. As we gather, Lord God, to deal with the business at hand, we would ask, oh God, that you would touch each and every one of us. Let us all know that you have created us in your image and your likeness. We come, Lord God, before you, and we would ask that every heart and mind be touched not only in this place, but within this community and throughout this world. To know, Lord God, that you love us all equally. We pray, oh God, now that justice, oh God, will be done. We thank you, Lord, for all that you have done. Would you give wisdom and insight to those who must make these decisions? Would you bring us to a place of peace, oh God, and not hatred? We thank you for what you're doing even now. Bless this community at large. We pray, oh God, for peace, not only in the city of Bayonne, but throughout this world. This is our prayer. Amen.
Amen. First order of business is our acceptance of communications. Gene, would you like to read yours?
Sure.
Why don't we do it now before we accept communications?
From the read my thing, and then or someone to add something to that, fine.
Whatever you'd like to do.
First, I'm going to speak from the perspective of a citizen of this town, right? So, one, thank you, everybody, for holding this special meeting today. I really appreciate it. This shows that our school district is willing to do the right thing in the times that we're dealing with, all right? So, from the personal perspective and as a citizen, I grew up in a family where racist things, homophobic things, and just hatred for other people were a constant. And when I got out of my house finally, when I went to college, I saw things from a completely different perspective. I came across professors and friends, and even when I was here going to school in the district, I was the one white kid in my group hanging out, even though the things that were being said at home were being lodged at my friends. But then at that time, I was too young and naive to say anything to the people in my family. When I got myself into college, things changed, and I was able to speak up and start representing people the way I should have. When it comes to what Mr. Alonso has said recently and in the past, we could be very angry with him, and I am. And we could hate him if we choose to. But I don't think that's really the answer. I pity him for what he believes. Somewhere along the line, he was misguided and needs to be re-educated. That's what I believe. Sometimes people can't. Sometimes people won't. But we need to try. And if he is unwilling to do that, he needs to be removed from this board. In fact, I don't think he should stay on anymore. He should resign and then go get educated. I don't ever want to see him back here in this situation because I don't think, at least from my perspective, he will ever learn because he has not learned since he has stepped foot on this board. My second piece I'm talking from is as a teacher and as a parent. My son will not grow up or be brought up the way I was. My wife and I do everything we can to make sure our son's going to be culturally confident. My students know that I stand up for everything that they are and what they believe in. There is not a moment that I don't take what my position is to defend them and do what is right. As a district, as diverse as we are, we do what we have to do to make sure we protect them. And I'm going to make sure that Mr. Alonso will not be able to hurt our students ever again in this district. On the third perspective, and this is what I wrote to share on behalf of our union. I am writing on the behalf of the Bayonne Teachers Association to address Bayonne School Board Trustee Michael Alonso's recent comments on social media. We, the BTA, condemn Mr. Alonso's very inappropriate comments on Sunday, May 31st, 2020. We know that this is not the first time that he has posted a racial slur or comment on social media, and we do believe that this is in violation of the Board of Education policy. That policy is 0169.02. Board member use of social networks. Part of the policy that is in violation of the School Ethics Act, NJSA 18A 12-21, which includes the Code of Ethics for board members. Our state and our country has reached a crossroad when it comes to human rights. And if we do not protect humanity, we will not be able to overcome the many injustices that we are facing. Dr. King once said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." Our district cannot allow Mr. Alonso to repeatedly denigrate our community members. He took an oath when he was elected to be a trustee of the Bayonne Board of Ed, and from all of his actions, it is clear that he does not represent the best interests of our students, our community, nor our staff. We find Mr. Alonso's post extremely hostile and citing riot behavior unethical and completely racist. We are calling for his immediate resignation, and there is no place for a person on this school board who acts this way. This is important to us. The man needs to be re-educated, but he should not be on this board anymore. I feel, our union feels, he does not represent the interest of our community, our students, our staff, and this Board of Education overall. I'm calling, and our union is calling for him to resign immediately. Thank you.
Okay, I was asked by two members of the public to read their statements into the record. Due to the COVID-19 situation, they chose not to attend. Dear Board of Education members of the Bayonne School District, Michael Alonso's recent statements on social media do not reflect or align with the mission of the Bayonne School District. As a Board of Education trustee, he is a public figure whose responsibility is to uphold the integrity of a system whose goal is to provide the community's children with a safe, non-judgmental, unprejudiced environment to grow and learn. His recent posts show his lack of sensitivity to the chaotic events which unfolded in response to the cold-blooded murder at the hands of a police officer. As a taxpayer of this city, I feel Mr. Alonso does not have the ability to make decisions that would positively impact our school district. His lack of regard for the impact that his strongly offensive language through a public forum has on the families of this community make him a threat to the good work of our administrators and teachers are doing, particularly in the areas of social responsibility toward diversity and racial equality. I ask for his resignation immediately. Mrs. Gina Irizarry. Dear Superintendent, I'm writing you as a very concerned citizen. Your board member, Michael J. Alonso, has placed a very inappropriate comment on a social media site on Sunday, May 31st, 2020. I am hoping that you are aware and as alarmed as many of us are, especially during these tumultuous times. This is not the first time he has posted a racial slur or comment on social media. I do believe that he is in violation of your BOE policy. That policy is 0169-02, board member use of social networks. Part of the policy that is in violation of the School Ethics Act, NJSA 18A 12-21, which includes the Code of Ethics for board members. As part of the education system in humanity, we have the duty to ensure that all of our students and fellow human beings are treated with the utmost equality and fairness. I find Mr. Alonso's post extremely hostile, inciting riot behavior, unethical, and completely racist. He should resign from his position immediately. To ensure that this type of behavior never happens again, I would also suggest some type of cultural and critical competence training for all of your members. Clearly, this is an issue with this one BOE member, and I am truly hoping that all the other members and your Board of Trustees will recognize this poisonous behavior. They will all be getting a copy of this email, and this is from Carolyn L. Schultz. So, do I have a motion to accept communications?
So moved.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that motion.
So on that motion and second, trustee Alonso? Trustee Broderick?
Yes.
Trustee Burke?
Yes.
Trustee Cassius?
Yes.
Trustee Egan?
Yes.
Trustee Finerty, I'm sorry, is absent. Trustee Wilbeck?
Yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Yes.
President Villado?
Yes.
Next up, resolution I have listed is number 1. Whereas it is necessary for the Bayonne Board of Education to add an emergency board meeting date. Whereas the Bayonne Board of Education will hold an emergency workshop and public meeting session on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 at 9 a.m. in the Board of Education Anna J. Herbert Meeting Room, in which the public may attend and participate. A closed session may be called by the board to discuss matters exempt by law. Do I have a motion
I'll move it.
and a second?
I'll second the motion.
On that motion and second, trustee Alonso, trustee Broderick,
Yes.
trustee Burke,
Yes.
trustee Cassius,
Yes.
trustee Egan,
Yes.
trustee Finerty is absent, trustee Wilbeck,
Yes.
Vice President Munoz.
Yes.
And President Villado.
Yes.
And then I have a resolution that is not posted to the website. I just received it. I will read it into the record. Whereas on May 25th, 2020, George Floyd, an African-American,
Floyd.
George Floyd, an African-American man, died during a police incident with 4 Minneapolis, Minnesota police officers. The result of what appears to be a blatant disregard to the dignity and sanctity of human life. Whereas acts of intolerable violence in recent years have spurred protests across the country in support of the recognition that life is a gift and a human right, and that such acts of circumstance of violence have no place in our community. Whereas members of certain minority groups, particularly at the African American community, has been historically marginalized and continue to be underrepresented and discriminated against in our country. Whereas it is a goal and a mission of the Board of Education of the City of Bayonne, as educators to the children in our community, to maintain a safe and secure learning environment, which promotes positive social and emotional learning and encourages diversity and inclusivity of all people, irrespective of their gender, race, creed, national origin, or sexual orientation. Whereas the board is charged with protecting, educating, and safeguarding the children of the city of Bayonne, and board members are held to a higher standard than their general public with regards to standards of conduct and ethics. Whereas it is the expectation and obligation of board members to set an example on the manner of which one is to behave and not in violation of the public trust. Whereas on January 30th, 2018, the board adopted policy 0169.02, which is titled Board Member Use of Social Networks. Whereas on May 31st, 2020, trustee Michael Alonso made statements by way of posting on a social media network, the contents of which speak for itself. Now therefore be it resolved that this Board of Ed declares as follows. The board, to its fullest extent possible, denounces and condemns the May 31st, 2020 statement of trustee Michael Alonso. The May 31st, 2020 statement of trustee Michael Alonso are his alone and are not representative of the view of the board as a whole. This board finds that trustee Michael Alonso's behavior was in violation of board policy 0169.02. It requests that trustee Michael Alonso cease such activity. The board decries and rebukes any and all forms of racism, bigotry, intolerance, insensitivity to any members of the community, and declares that it is the expectation of the board that all members must at all times act in a manner which is symbolic of the office in which he or she serves, in accordance with the principles of the community in which he or she was elected holds. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Seconded.
On that motion and second, Trustee Alonso. Trustee Broderick.
Yes.
Trustee Burke.
Yes.
Trustee Cassius.
Yes.
Trustee Egan. Was it yes?
Yeah, I was gonna be,
I'm sorry. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, you can
Can we
speak.
go back? I'm sorry.
Wait, let me,
Yeah.
Yeah, you could all, members.
Because I thought you should, I
all
didn't
right,
know.
folks, let's remember, one at a time, speak loudly. So I'm going to go back. We have a motion by the
Yes.
president, a second by the vice president. I had nothing from trustee Alonso. Trustee Broderick.
Yes, if I could say a
Yes,
few
go ahead.
statements?
You have
Thank
the
you.
floor.
One is, I just wanted to make everyone clear that I, along with everyone else here, I believe, don't agree with anything he's said in his text. I think it only caused more problems to the situation than any good that he thought he might have been doing. I know that, these are terrible, terrible times. And we got to go back to, I think, the biggest picture we have here, and it's the longest picture we have here, is that probably the biggest, longest problem in this country has been a race relationship. We've had wars, we've had everything, and has things gotten better? I guess so. Can they get much better? Certainly. I can talk from a personal note. I have a godchild who's lived with me most of her life, and I've personally seen racial problems all through her life. And so, it's something that is definitely there, definitely has to be addressed. So the importance of this meeting, I think, more than the importance of what our vote's gonna be on this trustee is, where do we go forward? What are we gonna do about this? We talk about things, do we need more classes? Mr. Woods mentioned things like that, education. Yes, I think we need a greater education in this whole situation. I think it's heartbreaking. What we're seeing going on in this country is just so sad. And going back to my own personal story, this way of living has affected my godchild in such a way that she's having many problems. This is a girl that went to college, went to an Ivy League school, and is still facing so many difficulties. And so, yes, and what do we do about it? I think we have to look forward to what we can do about it in our own simple way, our own little city, our own little school district. We got to start somewhere. And I just think, going back to what's going to happen as far as this resolution, I think, yes, I think it's the right direction. We have to realize that this board can only do certain things. I know people are running for resignation, this and that, but we're a body of laws here, and we have to follow laws, whether we like laws or don't like laws. It's the same situation. So, yes, I vote yes, and for all those reasons. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a yes. Trustee Burke?
First, yes, I'd also like to say something. It is a very difficult time for all of us right now in our nation, in our country. I speak for everyone when I say I was angry when I read his comments on social media, and I can assure you his views do not reflect how we believe as a board. As a resident of Bayonne, as a mother, as a human being, and as an elected official, we should be doing all that we can to pull our community together, working with our community to come together, not separate them by inciting or insinuating any type of violence. I do not believe Mr. Alonso has the best interests of our children or our community, and I do believe that he should be removed.
Trustee Cassius?
Hi, good morning. If I was to say I was shocked and appalled by the comment made by this trustee, I would be lying. This was just the icing on the cake. In times like this, we should be standing together in solidarity. We are elected officials. The community voted us into these positions because they wanted us to represent them, the community, the teachers, and most importantly, our children. This is not a game, and we will no longer play this game. Now I will speak as a parent, because I am a parent of 3 children. The comment affected me in many ways that I can't even explain. Having children who may want to be part of a peaceful protest because of what they believe in, and being all for it, but the fear of the protest becoming violent or turning into a riot is the scariest thing in the world. And then you have this, an elected official making statements that may incite violence, asking where the riots are going to start first. I'm not comfortable with you making decisions for my child any longer. I am not I'm sorry. Which is why I'm asking you to please step down from your position as a trustee and let someone who really cares do the job. And the only thing I can say to the community is, I understand that voting is your right and your choice on your belief, but please, come November, don't let this happen again. Thank you, and yes, yes.
Trustee Egan?
I vote yes, and now I'm gonna make my statement. Over the last couple of days, I've written what I was gonna say 1,000 times, and none of it really is right, because I can't control what happens across the country. I can't control what happens any place else other than my home. So the one thing I came down to was, I have to remember, and we all have to remember, that this starts at home. Mr. Woods made a great point. You know, we have to educate ourselves. We have to teach love to our children and respect to our children, not division and not hate. Mr. Broderick makes a great point that we are a body of laws, and we can only do so much as a board of education about this trustee. I wouldn't even say his name. But I think that one thing is important to remember is that we're all here, and we're all taking a stand publicly on him. And his absence speaks volumes. If he were here and he took responsibility for his actions, maybe there's a hope for him as a person, and certainly not as a trustee. And if he were here, the one thing I'd say to him is he needs to look inside his own heart and see what's going on in there, because I don't know how, I'll say it this way, I don't know how an elected official says things like that. And I won't call for his resignation because the voters spoke. I will do what I can do on this board to make sure he's held responsible for his actions. But we all took an oath. We all abide by a code of conduct. And it would behoove all of us to look at that oath, look at that code of conduct all the time. Because one of the things that both of those documents highlight is that we are here for the children. His actions, we're here for the children, the education of the children of this community. His actions, his words, repeatedly do not follow that code of conduct or that oath. I vote yes on the resolution.
Trustee Finnerty is absent. Trustee Wilbeck?
Yes.
Vice President Munoz?
Okay, so, the more things change, the more they stay the same. I'm going to call him Mr. Alonso because I will no longer call him trustee. I think he's lost the privilege to be called trustee. That's a sacred right, and I think that's an honor to be called trustee, and I think he lost that on May 31st. Since his swearing in, he's been a divisive force in this board. He shared his personal political views on a nonpartisan elected body. He had verbally attacked a special needs parent and a child at a board meeting and received an ethics complaint for it. He shared confidential and at times misleading information with the media. He's deliberately delayed crucial votes. He has said to trustees on this dais that he does not believe in the public education system in Bayonne, and he would abolish it, if he could, in favor of homeschooling to save the taxpayers' money. This is not someone that I think that has the best interests of the children or the city of Bayonne at heart. During this difficult time of unrest and uncertainty in this country, Trustee Alonso chose to make things more divisive. For him to actually put out on social media, where are the riots going to begin in Bayonne, it's not just racially charged, although I believe it's racially charged, but it's not just about race. It's about his lack of faith in this community. To think that something like that could happen in the city of Bayonne. I don't know about him, but I believe in our community. I believe that our community is more than that. And I don't think anything like that would ever happen here, because I think that we know better, and I think that we have our best interests in mind. We are a family, and I think that Trustee Alonso violated that trust. not only do I vote yes as a trustee on this resolution, but as a parent, as a taxpayer, and as an educator, I am not asking, I am demanding for his resignation. I know that this Board of Ed cannot remove him. We've been notified, I guess, by the Commissioner of Education that we don't have the ability to remove him because we don't have that power to do that, but I am demanding his resignation. If you have 1 ounce of integrity left, do the right thing, resign, and apologize to this community, because what you did was really just a betrayal to this board in your position. So yes, I vote yes.
President Bellato.
Okay. I agree. I agree with all the comments stated by my fellow trustees. And Trustee Broderick said that that we have to do our part in our small corner of this country. This meeting was called on an emergency because this was an emergency. Right now, our country is going through turmoil. Our community is standing so strong. And these go against what our community stands for. So this was why this was an emergency. This is us doing our part, calling out when we see that this is wrong and that it hurts our students, our staff, our community. As elected officials, we're charged with the duty of safeguarding and protecting the minds and bodies of the most vulnerable in our society, our children. I believe that we, all of us, as board members, are held to a higher standard. It is our duty and our obligation to act in a manner in which the community expects us as elected officials. I speak to all members of the board, not just, if we're unable to act in that manner, if we're unable to rise to that higher standard that's expected by our community, because they put that trust in us, of looking over the most precious thing in our community, which is our children, then step aside. There are others in our community who are so willing and able to stand up and protect our children. As a mom, I've raised her children in the city, and I was raised in the city. We're all neighbors. I know my neighbors. I know the people down my street. I know the people around the corner. You know, you go to ShopRite, you go to Stop and Shop, you go to Quick Check, you go to Walmart. You see your neighbors. You say hello. You see your community. We're here to represent you because you elected us to represent you. I don't think these comments this week represent our community. So yes, I do accept the resolution.
We have members of the public that might like to speak. First up, no? Okay. Reverend Patterson, did you still like to say? And thanks again for being put on the spot with that prayer. I wish we would have.
We always put her on the spot.
We would
With
have gave
that.
you notice.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Being put on the spot for praying, that's not a problem. I want to take this opportunity to thank you all for coming and having this emergency meeting. I think that speaks something that you feel that there needs to be a meeting, so I do want to say that. I want to bring forth this particular words that came from Dr. Martin Luther King in 1967, and then I'll bring forth my own words. He said, 3 major evils: the evil of racism, the evil of poverty, and the evil of war. These are the 3 things that I want to deal with today. Now let us turn first to the evil of racism. There can be no gainsaying of the fact that racism is still alive all over America. Racial injustice is still the Negro's burden and America's shame. We must first face the hard fact that many Americans would like to have a nation which is democracy for white Americans, but simultaneously a dictatorship over black Americans. We must face the fact that we still have much to do in the area of race relations. And that was written in 1967. And today, in 2020, we're still dealing with that. I consider racism to be an ancient evil. It has been an ancient evil from the beginning of time. And so I'm standing here today, and I've heard what everyone has said, but what I put down is what I'm still going to say today. First of all, people have a right, and black Americans have a right to be angry. We have a right to be angry. I'm going to say it again. We have a right to be angry. I have a right to be angry. What I say to myself and I say to those around me is to channel that anger. Let it be something that's active. Let it be something that's in action. But let it be something that's positive and relevant, that's able to transform, not change, because change is one thing, but transformation is something that's continuous. And so to gather here today for a change and nothing happens, we may not, it's just as well that we not gather here at all. And so when I think about the knee that was on George Floyd's neck, on his head, on his entire body, for me, it represents not only in the physical to be able to look at it, but it represents what's happening all throughout this world for African Americans from the beginning of time. Number one, let me say this. My ancestors came here not as yours did. My ancestors came here as slaves. We didn't ask to come here. So I just need to say that right now, because again, this is righteous indignation, and I have to say again, I am angry. And I realize in my mind, whether it's conscious or unconscious, if I'm angry to the point where I am, I can imagine what's happening to those young individuals who are not able to gravitate and bring their anger to a place where they understand it and able to analyze it and compartmentalize it to the place where even in my anger I can still have peace. That even in my anger I can still have love. What about those who can't? And so I hear what you said as relates to what they have told you you are not able to do. But here's my challenge to you all. My challenge to you all, that if you allow this individual to stay on this board, you have now put another knee on the necks and the heads and the body of every African American in this city. Not only this city, but in this entire America. You said to us that, guess what? It's okay that you're not breathing again, constantly over and over and over again. So I came here today hoping that, guess what, I could leave here and breathe. And I heard what you said about what they told you. But I'm saying, I'm challenging you to go beyond that. We say that we Bayonne strong. If we don't make a stand on this, no, we'll be Bayonne wrong forever. And you give the signal to every single person that's in this town and throughout that it's okay. Well, you know what? Add another amendment to the policy, the procedures, or whatever it is, because this type of action cannot happen again. I don't have children that's in the Bayonne Board of Ed in terms of biological, but I do have a whole lot of children that are students here. I know teachers who teach here. I know some of you that's here. And I'm saying to you all, do the right thing. And if you don't understand what the right thing, and let me move into do what is a righteous thing, because there is a difference between what is right and what is righteous. Because when we take a look at the amendments and the laws as it relates to police officers, there are certain things that they've done that they consider and the law considered to be right. But is it righteous? And so I'm challenging you all today. And if there is a protest in the city of Bayonne, and we gather to protest, I'd like to see every single face that's in here walking with us. Because if you're not walking with us, that means that guess what? You're standing somewhere against us. Thank you.
Jean, please.
Before Reverend Patterson spoke, I was going to say something, but the first thing I'm going to say is I stand with you and I will walk with you. I stand and I walk with every single student that's in my classroom, every single student that is in this district, all of my friends, my fellow colleagues, and the family who is standing by me. I have to ask, you know, we talk about we can't do anything about him, that there are laws. In the beginning of every school year, every teacher and every student signs an acceptable use policy for social media. What happens if one of us did that? What if one of my members, I was told this in the past, right? That if we did something wrong on social media, our former president, I don't know how it would work with me, but I sure as hell would stand up unless something was completely out of the realm of, you know, true speaking, that we wouldn't be able to be defended. So I have to question that. If we have to sign an acceptable use policy every year, and when students write things down and their Google accounts are looked at, and, you know, rightfully so, some of them have said some terrible things, or, you know, we're looking out for their best interest when it comes to their health, someone shows up at their door, how is it that we cannot get together and force his removal? I'm telling you this, if we do not get him removed, if he does not resign, people in this town are not going to stand for it. I am not going to stand for it. I cannot. I am not going to be able to look my students in the face if he stays on. Yes, I understand it's an elected piece, which speaks to some issues that we have in our town. Like Reverend Patterson said, you know, we speak about Bayonne strong, but that represents Bayonne wrong. And I know some people aren't going to like what I'm saying right now, and that's okay. I don't mind. You know, a couple of years ago, I was actually with Reverend Patterson, and we went down to Washington, D.C. in honor of Dr. King. And there was a man who got up and spoke about agitation. And he said, you know, one of the things we have to do is we have to agitate, right? And he tried to explain it to everybody because some people just didn't get it. He said, think about a washing machine. When you put your clothes in the washer, there's an agitator in there, and the agitator gets the stains out. What are we doing right now to remove this stain? I am going to agitate as much as possible. I'm wearing a shirt right now from a man named Bayard Rustin. Yesterday marked Pride Month. Bayard Rustin said, we need a group of angelic troublemakers in our communities. I know my face isn't always angelic, okay? But I'm telling you this, I am going to be the troublemaker. And I will speak at every single board meeting and every opportunity I get to represent our community, my students, our faculty. He cannot remain. We must all come together and figure out what needs to be done to have him removed if he will not choose to resign, which him not being here is a probably big chance of him not choosing to resign. So we need to do something, and I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you.
We're good? Motion to adjourn?
Anyone have any other comments they'd like to add? Board members? You do? Go ahead.
I just want to say to Reverend Patterson, to Mr. Woods, and I think to the public watching at home, I mean, I think I mean, look, I understand at times that we are a divided board, and I wish that wasn't the case, but I think that all of us here will agree that the Bayonne community means more to us than many things. And I think that I share I know I share your sentiments. He should be removed from this board. And I was very upset when I was told that the Commissioner of Education said that we cannot remove him, all right, because he is an elected official and he hasn't technically done anything to be removed, like forcibly, or, that we could file an ethics complaint. I'm upset about that. I want you to be agitators. Please, you know what? Keep on, calling for his resignation. Please keep on making those social media posts. I'm with you 100%. And I think that this, a majority of this board is with you. I can't speak for everyone because that would be wrong, but I know that I'm with you, and I know many of my colleagues are with you. We want him gone too. So I just want to say that because I don't want anyone at home to think that we're letting him get off. I don't want anyone in the board, in this room to think that we're just saying, oh, it's okay, it's fine, he can do whatever he wants. No, we cannot legally remove him ourselves.
If I might.
Yes, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, in agreement with what Ms. Casaya said, as well as Mr. Munoz, it's almost impossible for us to remove Mr. Alonso as a group here. But what can happen is one of two things. An ethics charge can be brought against him, at which time it would go before the Department of Education, the Ethical Review Board, and they would make a decision. But if that were to occur, correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen, it might be November or later before it would even be heard as a result of the pandemic. The area is closed. And then secondly, if you feel strongly as being expressed here, come November, you'll have your voice and an opportunity to make a decision as to who represents us and who does not. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank
Any
you,
other
Trustee
board?
Reverend Pat?
Reverend Patterson, please.
Hearing what I just heard, I'm going to say this in spite of the pandemic, the two areas in which you just laid out, I think we need to do both of them, regardless of the pandemic, because it still speaks to what it is in your minds to do, whether or not it happens after November or not, but that you take a stand on this particular issue. And so I don't think the COVID-19 or anything else ought to be a hindrance for us moving forward and doing what is the right thing to do.
Thank you. I agree with you, Reverend Patterson. I agree with my fellow trustees. The ethics complaints can be filed by everyone in the community as well. If one ethics complaint goes up, it says one message. If I have 100 ethics complaints go up on this issue, it sends another message. So, as a community, we could all do that. As a community, we also have our vote, which is our strongest voice. When we disagree, when we do not feel that someone represents us, we need to make sure we exercise our vote. That's the most important. I will stand by you. I will walk with you right in front. I am a teacher for 25 years in a community of Black and brown children. I stand with them every day. I protect them. I want the best for them. I almost tear up in thinking of some of the fears some of my students must be going through right now. And I speak to them every day. I ask them, you want to talk, call me, because I'm not in the classroom with them to guide them right now through this difficult time. So, I stand with you and with the community as a whole. We are Bayonne strong, and we see Bayonne strong every day. So when we have the protest, I'm with you. We are all with you, walking right at the front, because we believe that it's time to end the social injustices that we have in our nation. Thank you all for coming today. And thank you for my board for coming and for allowing me to have this emergency meeting.
Motion to adjourn?
We will have, if there is no more comments?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion, second?
Second.
Second. Motion and a second to adjourn the emergency meeting. Trustee Alonso, trustee Broderick,
Yes.
trustee Burke,
Yes.
trustee Cassius, trustee Egan,
Yes.
trustee Finney is absent, trustee Wilbeck,
Yes.
Vice President Munoz.
Yes.
President Bellato.
Yes.
It is 10:06.